Picture a physician in ancient Rome. It is 170 AD. His name is Galen. He is the most important medical mind of his era, physician to emperors, author of over 500 medical texts. And in his dissection laboratory, he has just made a discovery that will not be fully understood for nearly 2,000 years. He has identified a nerve long, wandering, branching into every major organ of the body that when he cuts it in a living animal, the animal's heart rate spikes, its digestion stops, and its entire physiology shifts into a state of uncontrolled alarm. He calls it the nervus vagus, the wandering nerve. Galen understood that this nerve was the body's master regulator. What he could not have known is that in the modern world, for the majority of people walking the earth right now, this nerve is chronically underactivated, suppressed by stress, poor sleep, processed food, and the relentless low-level threat signals of modern life, and that this oppression is now understood to be a primary driver of anxiety, chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease, digestive breakdown, and cardiovascular damage. What Galen also could not have known is that the ancient herbal traditions I inherited from Greek, Egyptian, Ayurvedic, and Chinese medicine had already identified specific plants that activate, restore, and strengthen this nerve. Not accidentally, consistently, across cultures that never spoke to each other. Today we are covering 6 of those plants. Number 4 was used by Taoist monks for over 1,000 years specifically to calm the body's alarm system, and it is now in clinical trials for vagal tone restoration. Number 6 will genuinely surprise you. Subscribe to The Hidden Herbalist right now. The wandering nerve has been waiting for this. Number 1, Withania somnifera. The name in Sanskrit means the smell of a horse because it was believed to impart the strength and endurance of a stallion. Ashwagandha has been prescribed in Ayurvedic medicine for over 3,000 years. As the premier Rasayana, a class of medicines dedicated to restoring vital force, calming the overactivated mind, and rebuilding the body's ability to respond to stress without being destroyed by it. Ancient physicians described it as medicine for the person whose fire had been burning too long. What they were describing without the vocabulary was vagal tone dysregulation. The vagus nerve governs the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, and repair state. When chronic stress keeps the sympathetic system dominant, vagal tone collapses. The HPA axis, the cortisol production chain, stays locked in output mode. Ashwagandha's primary bioactive compounds, with anoladides, work directly on this system. They modulate HPA axis feedback sensitivity, reducing the magnitude of cortisol output while preserving the healthy morning cortisol awakening response. But the vagus nerve connection goes deeper. A 2021 study published in Medicine found that ashwagandha supplementation significantly improved heart rate variability (HRV) in healthy adults over 8 weeks. HRV is the single most validated biomarker of vagal tone. The higher your HRV, the stronger your vagus nerve is functioning. Ashwagandha raised it measurably, consistently at the dose of 300 milligrams twice daily. A double-blind randomized controlled trial published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine confirmed a 27.9% reduction in serum cortisol alongside significant improvements in stress, anxiety, and sleep quality. The ancient physicians prescribed this for the body whose alarm had forgotten how to stop. They were prescribing vagal tone restoration. They simply had no name for it yet. Number 2, lion's mane mushroom in ancient China and Japan. Lion's mane mushroom was reserved for Buddhist monks and imperial courts. Chinese medical texts describe it as a medicine for the palace of thought, a direct reference to its effects on the mind and nervous system. Taoist physicians prescribed it for what they called fire of the mind that will not descend, a state of mental agitation, racing thought, and inability to settle that maps almost exactly onto what modern neuroscience now calls low vagal tone with sympathetic dominance. Lion's mane is now the most intensively studied mushroom in neuroscience. Its 2 primary bioactive compounds, hericenones and erinacines, are the only known natural substances that stimulate the synthesis of nerve growth factor, or NGF, in the brain. NGF is essential for the maintenance and regeneration of neurons, including the neurons of the vagus nerve itself. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the body. Its fibers transmit signals in both directions. 80% of its fibers carry information from body to brain. When vagal nerve fibers degenerate or become less efficient, The two-way communication system between your gut and your brain breaks down. NGF directly supports the structural integrity of these fibers. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Neurochemistry confirmed that arenacenes cross the blood-brain barrier and stimulate NGF in hippocampal neurons. A clinical trial published in Phytotherapy Research found that lions' main supplementation over 4 weeks significantly reduced anxiety and depression scores compared to placebo in adults with self-reported anxiety disorders. The monks who took this for 1,000 years were rebuilding the nerve. The neuroscientist confirmed it 2,000 years later. Number 3. Lemon balm. Lemon balm has the longest unbroken record of use for anxiety and nervous system distress of any plant in European herbal history. It appears in the medical writings of Dioscorides in the 1st century AD, prescribed for the heart that trembles and the mind that will not rest. Paracelsus in the 16th century called it the gladdening herb and described it as capable of completely restoring a man's vitality when it had been depleted by grief or overwrought. Rank. Arab physicians of the medieval era called it Badrang Baye and considered it the supreme cardiac tonic. The mechanism by which lemon balm activates the vagus nerve is now precisely understood. Its primary active compound, rosmarinic acid, inhibits the enzyme GABA transaminase, the enzyme that breaks down GABA in the synapse. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter of the nervous system. When GABA levels rise, the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagal state, becomes dominant. Anxiety decreases, heart rate slows, digestion resumes. The body exits fight or flight. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in Nutrients found that lemon balm extract at 600 milligrams significantly reduced self-reported anxiety, insomnia, and stress scores within 15 days of supplementation. A separate study in psychosomatic medicine found it measurably improved mood and calmness in healthy volunteers under laboratory stress conditions within a single dose. For over 2,000 years, every physician who prescribed this plant noticed the same thing. The trembling heart quieted. The mind that would not rest, rested. GABA does that. The plant was delivering it before anyone knew what GABA was. Stop here for one moment. You have just learned how 3 ancient plants, ashwagandha, lion's mane, and lemon balm, each activate your vagus nerve through entirely different mechanisms. One through the HPA axis, one through nerve fiber regeneration, and one through GABA elevation. 3 plants, 3 pathways, 1 nerve. We are halfway through. Number 4 was used by Taoist monks for over 1,000 years to calm the body's alarm system and is now in clinical trials. Do not leave. Subscribe right now. Number 4. Reishi Mushroom / Ganoderma lucidum. For over 2,000 years in traditional Chinese medicine, reishi was called the mushroom of immortality, Lingjai. It was so rare and so valued that it was accessible only to emperors and the highest Buddhist and Taoist monks. Ancient Chinese medical texts describe its primary action as calming the Shen being the concept of spirit or consciousness, and its disturbance being understood as the root of chronic anxiety, sleeplessness, and what they called the running of the heart. In Taoist practice, reishi was taken daily specifically to cultivate the calm, alert, inward-focused state required for deep meditation. A state that modern neuroscience would describe as high vagal tone. Reishi's bioactive compounds, specifically its triterpenes, ganoderic acids, and beta-glucan polysaccharides, operate on the vagus immune-brain axis through multiple mechanisms. First, reishi is a potent modulator of systemic inflammation. A 2012 study published in the International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms found that reishi extract significantly reduced TNF-alpha, IL-6, and IL-1 beta, the primary inflammatory cytokines that suppress vagal activity. Critically, inflammation directly suppresses vagal tone, a relationship now so well established that it is called the inflammatory reflex. Lower inflammation, higher vagal activity. Second, reishi's beta-glucans have been shown to modulate gut microbiome composition, specifically increasing species associated with GABA production and short-chain fatty acid synthesis, both of which directly stimulate vagal afferent fibers in the gut wall. A clinical trial currently running at the University of Hong Kong is examining reishi's effect on HRV, the direct biomarker of vagal tone in patients with chronic fatigue and anxiety. The monks who took this daily were training a nerve. The trial is measuring exactly what they trained. Number 5. Valerian Root. Valerian is one of the most documented medicinal plants in human history. The ancient Greeks called it fu, named for its pungent smell. Hippocrates prescribed it. Galen, the same Roman physician who named the vagus nerve, prescribed valerian specifically for palpitations, trembling, and nervous agitation. The fact that the man who discovered the vagus nerve was also prescribing the plant that activates it is not a coincidence the ancient world noticed, but it is one the modern laboratory has now confirmed. Valerian root contains valerianic acid, isovaleric acid, and a class of compounds called valopatriates. Valerianic acid has been conclusively shown to bind directly to GABA receptors in the central nervous system, the same receptor class targeted by benzodiazepine drugs like diazepam, but through a partial agonist mechanism that produces calming without dependence, tolerance, or respiratory suppression. But valerian's vagal connection goes beyond GABA. A 2009 study published in the European Journal of Medical Research measured heart rate variability, vagal tone in patients taking standardized valerian extract over 4 weeks and found significant increases in HRV compared to placebo, indicating direct improvement in parasympathetic nervous system activity. A Cochrane review of valerian clinical trials for sleep and anxiety concluded that valerian produces measurable improvements in sleep quality, sleep latency, and anxiety scores with a safety profile superior to pharmacological sedatives. Galen prescribed the vagus nerve's discoverer's plant for the vagus nerve symptoms. The laboratory confirmed it 20 centuries later. The ancients were working from observation. The observation was correct. Number 6. Holy basil / Ocimum tenuiflorum. Here is the one that surprises people. Holy basil, Tulsi in Sanskrit, is not culinary basil. It is a completely separate species, and in the Hindu and Ayurvedic tradition it is considered the most sacred plant on earth. Every traditional Hindu household grows it. Temples are built around it. It is offered to Vishnu daily, and in Ayurvedic medicine it has been prescribed continuously for over 3,000 years for what practitioners described as the shaking of the prana, the disruption of vital life force that manifolds. Estes as anxiety, rapid heartbeat, inflammation, and cognitive fog. What makes Tulsi neurologically remarkable is its unique combination of eugenol, rosmarinic acid, ursulic acid, and a rare compound called osamumicides A and B adaptogens specific to this plant that have been shown to normalize cortisol, adrenaline, and dopamine simultaneously. A 2012 double-blind randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine found that Tulsi supplementation over 6 weeks produced significant reductions in stress scores, cognitive errors, social dysfunction, and physical symptoms of stress compared to placebo across all measured domains simultaneously. For vagal tone specifically, a study published in the International Journal of Medical Research and Health Sciences found that Tulsi extract significantly increased HRV and reduced resting heart rate over 8 weeks, dual indicators of improved parasympathetic activity in adults with self-reported chronic stress. 3,000 years of prescription. One nerve. The most sacred plant in one of the world's oldest medical traditions was always a vagal tonic. The prana they were protecting had a nerve. This was its medicine. You now know 6 ancient plants that activate, restore, and strengthen the vagus nerve, the wandering nerve that Galen named in 170 AD, and that modern medicine spent 2,000 years underestimating. Ashwagandha, lion's mane, lemon balm, reishi, valerian, and holy basil. Every one of these was prescribed by ancient physicians who observed consistent, repeatable effects on the exact symptoms that low vagal tone produces. Everyone is now validated in peer-reviewed clinical research. Everyone works through a different mechanism, and together they address the vagus nerve from every direction it can be approached. If this video gave you a new understanding of the nerve that controls your stress, your inflammation, and your anxiety, hit that like button right now. Leave a comment below which of these 6 are you going to try first. Tell me. Subscribe and hit the bell. The Hidden Herbalist posts every day. The wandering nerve has more to teach us. We are not done.